So a lot of our seed comes from these seed packets that we buy from seed companies. But where do they get their seed from? So every plant that we get these seeds from makes seed in some way. And sometimes it's harder for us to, grow our own seed. And it's more reliable to buy that from these companies. But there are plants that we have that we collect our own seed from. One easy one is if we have sunflowers. All seeds come from flowers in some way or another. So if you have a flower, it might be easier to find the seed. And the sunflowers, you will probably recognize. So they grow in the flower just like this, and then you can take them out and harvest them and grow your own. And you can also have sunflowers as a snack. So seeds have this part in them that is food for the baby plant, so that when the baby plant starts to grow, it already has this little packet of food in it, and that's what gives seeds good protein that we like to eat. And beans, peas, nuts are all types of seeds, and lots of them we eat. Let's take a look at some more seeds from our plants. So on this table we have quite a few old dried plants. These are beans. So you can see the dried bean. That's a seed for this plant. So inside these pods are the beans. Now when they're fresh, you can eat them and they're tasty, and when they're dry, then you can plant them as seeds. We have some more dried plants here. This is some form of brassica. It kind of looks like the broccoli seed pods I saw in the field that we'll go look at. So when you see a pod like this, there was a flower that got pollinated, and then it grew this seed pod. It's kind of tricky to crack open. You see those seeds in there? So we could collect those and then plant them for another harvest. Even grass has all these, each individual little piece here is a grass seed. Each kernel of corn is a seed. We like to eat them as popcorn or fresh as corn on the cob, but if you plant them, they'll grow corn the next year. Here is a squash seed that I found out in the field. And I wanted to show you this dried onion still has the flower. So even though we don't usually see onion flowers, we usually harvest them before they flower. If you leave them, they will flower, and then it's from these flowers that we get onion seed. Here are two examples of fava beans. So that's where the little sprout would come out. The embryo is what makes the new plant, and then there's all this whole bean basically is food for that baby plant. And here I found one in the field that was just starting to sprout, so it's putting out, it's kind of pointy at the end so it can get through the soil and put down its root, and then it will start to sprout. Let's go look in the field for some other examples of seeds. Here's the first thing that I found. It really doesn't look tasty right now, but all of these apples contain seeds. So apple is a fruit, and a fruit just means it's the part of the plant that we eat that has seeds. Anything that has seeds in it is a fruit. And a vegetable means we eat the part of the plant that doesn't have the seeds. Let's go take a look at what that could mean. Here are our greens, and we have a lot of arugula right now. And this would be a vegetable because the part that we eat are the leaves. Now, this arugula has some flowers, And what's going to happen if those flowers get pollinated is they're going to make more seed. And what can happen is that arugula keeps growing back in this bed year after year if we don't mess with it, because these flowers will make seed and they'll drop their seed and grow more arugula plants. This cabbage looks like it's starting to bolt. And what we mean when we say it's starting to bolt is that it's starting to make a flower. And those flowers will eventually make seed. When the plant is focusing on making a flower and making a seed, then the greens don't usually taste as good anymore. There are some plants that we have left to bolt because it provides food for our pollinators over the winter. So this was our broccoli that we left in, and there's a few flowers you can see here, but most of them are gone. But what you can see in certain spots is that where there were flowers, they have made these seed pods, just like what we saw in the shed. So things like our brassicas, it looks like a lot of them have dropped. Our cabbage and our broccoli, we don't tend to collect that seed because that's very tedious and difficult and hard to get a good result, but that's where it would come from. If a seed company was giving us broccoli seed. Here is our garlic. And to plant our garlic, we put garlic cloves in the ground. So each clove of garlic is a garlic seed. And that is something that we collect and replant our garlic every year. Here's an example of a garlic clove, and you can see that it's starting to sprout. So we just put the clove right into the ground under the soil, and it'll grow roots out the bottom and sprout a new garlic plant out the top. I found another example of a seed. Here is a dandelion. Here's what the flowers look like, and then they turn into this that will become kind of like a puff ball. And at the bottom of each of these is the seed that will become another dandelion. And the tops of these are light and fluffy like a feather and get carried in the wind to carry the dandelion plant far away so they're not all in one spot. So there's a bit about where seeds come from, how to plant them, and how plants grow them. Remember that if we eat the part of the plant that has the seeds in it, then we call it a fruit. So every plant that makes seeds, the seeds come from flowers, and when the flowers get pollinated, then they develop the fruit that becomes the seed. Happy planting!